Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Label Summit, how to step into your own power, free yourself from expectations, and live the life you always wanted. Today, I have a very special guest, Allana Pratt. She is a global media personality, a go-to authority for those who have suffered heartbreak and are ready to live unapologetically and attract an open-hearted, ideal relationship. Her vulnerability and courage landed her a featured weekly column on the GoodMenProject, featured as an icon of influence and as a guest expert on Huffington Post, People Magazine, Forbes, CBS, and Fox, and the Jenny McCarthy Show. I love her already, don't you? This Ivy League grad is the author of 6 books, has interviewed Whoopi Goldberg and Morissette, and hosts the edgy podcast, Intimate Conversations, which I highly recommend, where listeners learn how to find the relationship they deserve. A certified coach with close to 5 million views on YouTube, Allana was asked by Leeza Gibbons to coach her during Dancing with the Stars, while supporting nonprofits like Rise of the Butterfly to end human trafficking. Allana offers private and group sessions, plus retreats, so that her clients have a thriving, intimate relationship with themselves first, which naturally attracts and enhances their ideal partnerships. I'm so excited to have you, Allana. I am a huge fan, and I would love for you to tell me a little bit about your background so the audience knows, like, how did this incredible woman come to be?
Oh, you're so sweet. Don't worry, I fart like the rest of them. So, but I appreciate you, that you enjoy the work that I put out in the world. I'm really glad it touches you so much so that you reached out and that we get to be together. So thank you so much. So I am 50 years old now, but back when I was 19, I lived in Canada and I hopped on my Uncle Phil's 18-wheeler semi. He went to LA once a month, and I quit college and I sold my car and I said, I'm going to make it in Hollywood. And I failed. I was talented enough. Like, I got some jobs to dance maybe at Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm or this kind of thing. When it got down to, like, being an American citizen, I'm like, oh, I'm a Canadian citizen. So they wouldn't hire me. So I was almost out of money. And I had my father's credit card to fly home to admit failure, go back to college and work at his pharmacy. Hell, if that was going to happen. So $40 to my name. And I got a job dancing in Japan. So I got on the plane and I did all, like, the research, with Chamber of Commerce. Was I being sold into slavery? I don't think so. But over I went, and it was an amazing journey. 4 years, dancing, modeling, spokesperson. I would literally go into a subway, in Japan, and it was like late at night, and every picture inside was me. It was like a modeling job I did, and there was no one to tell. And there was these little young student girls down on the other side of the subway car. And I went over and I said, "Watashi wa me," and they had these little Hello Kitty little pencil cases, and they got their little scissors out and they cut down some pictures for me and one for them, and we signed it. We just had a good old time. So a lot of beautiful memories in Japan. And that's where I actually learned how to begin to have an intimate relationship with my body and my heart and my soul. Nobody really taught me, but when you're on your own and with your thoughts, I kind of learned there were 2 experiences. When I was critical of myself, embarrassed by myself, spinning in my head, trying to be good enough, safe, approved of, it didn't go so well. And when I went inside and I said, "Hey, sweet little one, you have every right to be scared, insecure, needing approval, but it's not working very well for us seeking it, trying to grasp all the time. Why don't I just love you? Why don't we fall in love with each other? Why don't we be one on the inside?" It started to happen there. Another thing that happened in Japan was I danced with a bunch of French girls. And these French girls were different than who I grew up with in Canada. They loved their body. They thought their body was beautiful. They thought their body was sacred. They thought their body was divine. They had a completely different point of view about their body. And they also weren't, I noticed, competitive with each other. And where I grew up, it was like, oh, she's prettier than I am, or her butt is smaller than mine, or bigger than mine, or whatever you want with your butt, right? And they taught me to fall in love with my body, to listen to my body, to see it as a divine, sacred temple, and that I could literally receive energy from the world, like maybe judgment of a man going, oh, isn't she a tall glass of water or what have you? I could breathe in the judgment. Normally I would shut down. I would blame the man. I would feel like a piece of meat. I would lower my self-esteem. But they taught me to receive judgment from the outside and somehow breathe it on the inside, affirm, thank you for noticing. I am a goddess of the divine. Exhale that out my fingernails and my eyelashes and just exude it. And the men's behavior would change. They started to teach me I was the creator of my reality. And my belief in my body created a different reality. So that's kind of where it all began. It's not your typical way of becoming an intimacy expert, but life taught me that seeking my worth from the outside in, trying to control the outside, wasn't working. And when I went on the inside and I cultivated a relationship with little you and my body and my sexuality and the universe, life started to go really well. So that would be, I guess, the basis of how I came to be an intimacy expert.
That's fantastic. But at what point did you decide to pursue that as like a career path?
A career, yeah. After my first, so I've been married twice, and those were wonderful learning experiences. And after my first marriage ended, and he was lovely, he financially took care of me. He was a very wealthy Wall Street gentleman. It was time for me to pay for myself again. And I didn't initially want to go back to like dancing in shows at night because you didn't get to really see anybody for dinner, etc. And I was getting older. So I decided that I had taken a bunch of workshops, personal growth workshops, as I was working on my marriage. And I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty good at this coaching thing. They keep asking me to be a coach or a head coach, but it was all volunteer. So when I got a divorce, I'm like, okay, we're going to have to put a shingle up here and do this thing. So at first I called myself a sexy mom expert, maybe like 15 years ago. And I was on Leeza Gibbons' radio show every week. I would go into her studio and I taught what I'd learned about sacred sexuality and femininity. And then I began to have my business. And I mainly worked with women. And then after my second marriage ended, it was a very quick marriage, only like a year, when my mother was dying. And I just, in all honesty, thought like a man is a plan, a man and a baby is a plan. And then I won't hurt that my mom died. I know that's not very enlightened, but it was the best I could do. And when we close our heart, that is kind of the capacity we have to make only that quality of choice. And so my heart was closed. I attracted somebody with a heart that was closed because like attracts like. And when we got a divorce, he wasn't so thrilled with it. And it was a long custody battle, over a decade. And I lost all my assets, went into a lot of debt. And the gift, though, of all of that was, oh, the only one in common now, 2 divorces, that would be me. And so while I was initially working with women, the universe knew better. The universe always knows better. And I was becoming bitter about men. And so the universe started to send me a bunch of male clients so I could see their hearts are pure and good as well. It's just anybody who closes their heart tends to lash out and blame, but all people have the choice to open their heart and heal their heart. So it restored my belief in men again. So I coached men for a while. And then I'd say maybe 2-3 years ago, I started to attract couples that wanted to work together. I had learned enough about the masculine and the feminine. I'd learned enough about masculine energy, feminine energy. I'd learned enough about sacred sexuality. I'd learned enough about communication. I'd learned enough about intimacy with self and the divine that I could really help these couples. Now, I didn't have a 20-year marriage that I helped them from, but what I helped them is how to be present with themselves, communicate truth, and be open and present with each other rather than the blaming conflict game that normally goes on, and to allow the energy of their life purpose to be that sacred sexual chi that makes them either like radiant as a woman or like badass as noble badass as a man, to be their best selves, to turn themselves on, to be turned on by life and to be turned on by others. So it's been very successful now working with couples. So yeah, I've been at this about 15-20 years.
I think that's fantastic. I really want to dig deep into like how somebody can encompass that intimacy, that confidence, Because I know for me personally, you know, I didn't grow up like that. And I don't think a lot of people do. I don't think
No.
we, like in our society and our culture, it's taught growing up. Especially me growing up in an Asian American household, but I've seen so many other women too, where we kind of look in the outside world and we kind of say like, wow, I wish I had that person's body. And it's been amplified in social media. Like, I think if I looked like her, somebody would accept me.
Right.
Or, you know, I have to lose this much amount of weight for somebody to love me. Like, I have to look this kind of way to be considered sexy.
Yeah.
And I think through my own personal experience as well, and I didn't know this back then, but like you said, like attracts like.
Yeah.
And I've always people please. Like I was a people pleaser. So when I went up to make friends or like have relationships, it was always like, I would do anything for you, just please like me, kind of conversations going on. And throughout that process, I realized like no matter what I did, they never liked me back the way I wanted them to like me. And it was hard. It was so hard. And I think at some point I realized like, what am I doing? Right? Because it's with all types of relationships, with my parents, with my friends, with men that I like adored. I was just like, please look at me. Like, what do I have to do to look good? What do I have to do to make you say like, oh, I want to hang out with her or I want to date her? Everybody was like, oh, you're so nice. I don't want to be nice. I'm like, I want to be considered like sexy. I want to be powerful. I want to be confident, and I want to be able to like wear dresses and look good and feel good in my body. So my question for you is like, how does somebody embody that? How does somebody begin that process when they themselves have no idea how to do it?
Yeah. Our past is very similar. I was seeking 100% of my worth, 100% of my approval, 100% of my safety, like everything, appreciation, agreement, you name it, everything came from the outside in. And I would be a people pleaser. I would say yes when I meant no, like dating somebody. Do you like to run? Sure. Yeah, I love to run. I hate to run. I hate to run. So, but I would say I would lie just to get, attention, approval, just anything to not be alone. So I realized that I was wired completely backwards, outside in versus inside out. And not that there was like this one big moment where I finally got it. I got it, but life is, I believe it like a DNA spiral. It keeps going up. We keep learning and keep evolving, but there's some tough times around the dark side of the moon. And then you get it, and then you're tested again, but you always keep growing. So I do remember one day though, where I drew a line in the sand and I said, no more seeking my approval on the outside in. It is not going well. 2 divorces and a custody battle. I'm the only one in common. Okay, enough of this. And yet I didn't know what to do in order to wire myself properly or congruently from the inside out. Because when I started to look inside, slow down and feel what was actually going on inside, the little Allana or little Alanas on the inside, I was insecure, humiliated, ashamed, all of that, right? I didn't know. I wanted to fix her. So when I first went inside, I'm like, okay, chop. We need to like improve. We need to change this. And I was very critical, not very allowing, not very compassionate. And things got worse, not better. And I'm like, this whole inner child thing, stupid, sucks. What else? So I just tried harder on the outside to be perfect, right? So then I was taught, no. What if I was partially taught and partially I stumbled upon this? And it was like one of the worst times at the end of the custody battle. And I'd never felt so rejected by everybody, even my son. Like that was like the last straw. Like at least if my son loves me, I'm okay. And even that didn't go well for a period of time. So there's nowhere and no one at all left on the outside to try to get my attention from. So I sat with myself and I wrote out a list, and this is something everybody can do. I'm not pretty enough. I don't like the size of my ass. I blah, blah, blah. Like whatever's true for you. Mine was like, my son may never call me again. People might find out that I'm a fake relationship expert. Here I am. I have this horrible custody thing and people are going to find out. Like I just wrote everything out I could about my horrible life. And then I went through and I read the whole thing and I read the statement, my son may never call me again. And then I added, and I love and accept myself. Every single statement, I read it over and over and over, and I meant it. And I cultivated what it would take to love my big ass or to love my bank account the way it was, or to love if nobody followed me on Facebook anymore, or like whatever. Like, what would it really take to love and accept myself? Not celebrate and have a party, just love and accept. Okay. Just like the concept of allowance. You don't have to prefer it. You don't have to like it. But what is it going to take for me to keep my heart open to myself? Everything that I've been resisting is a very, very powerful practice. Scientifically, like on the Hawkins scale of consciousness, shame and guilt would be at the bottom. Up the scale would be like anger. But I think it's 320 on the Hawkins scale of consciousness is allowance. That's the difference between unconscious and conscious. Being a victim of your circumstances and choice, right? Being resistant to life and in the flow. That's allowance. Allowance is very important. Allowance isn't joy yet. It's not love yet. It's not bliss. It's not way up there yet, but it's required to get there. You've got to be able to be an allowance of things the way they are and not resist them. And also not compare yourself to others. It's all about this relationship with yourself. So just let go of everybody else, let go of everything else, and come home to self and go, I don't like my nose, but I love and accept myself. You know, I'm talking every detail possible. And when you can mean it and you can literally look yourself in the mirror and read these to yourself and mean it, something beyond what I can control or explain happens. And I'll call it, you come home. It's a oneness with self. It's unconditional love. It's love without condition. I'm sad and I still love myself just as much as when I'm happy. I have no boyfriend and I love myself just as much as when I have one. It's pure, I mean it, unconditional love. And it takes repetition. It takes intention. It takes practice. You're probably going to cry a bunch. You might get angry. You're going to have to process some emotions, integrate some unfairness. You're going to have to do some work. And I have lots of programs to support you, but you don't require them, but they're awesome. But this is the work you need to do. And then all of a sudden, everything will get very quiet inside. And you'll come home and all the little yous will snuggle up inside your heart. And you'll simultaneously be snuggled by the biggest, fluffiest angel wings you've ever imagined. Or if you're more into science, the field. The field is 99.9% that we can't see. It's a measurable vibration of the universe. You'll feel it around you. Something happens where you get that I am the sky. I am the breeze. I am you. You are me. We're all one. Not like some airy fairy thing you read in a book, like the embodiment of it, like the real moment of, oh my God, I'm the one that's been not home from me this whole time. And when you come home to yourself, you simultaneously come home to the all. And all of a sudden you feel at peace in your skin. And all of a sudden, well, I still prefer you like me, Nikki, I hope you do. But if you don't, I'm not going to lose my shit. Yeah. I will be sad maybe for a minute, but I'm not going to lose my center and I'm not going to stop showing up in the world. So it's not like I'm not afraid. I'm afraid every day. I risk all the time. I fail all the time. Every day I fail and I'm afraid every day. And I keep moving because I have this relationship with myself that even if we fail, I still love me. Even if we get rejected, I still love and accept myself. And I spend a lot of time as a morning practice getting quiet and listening to little me. In fact, I start my day, hand on my chest, hand on my belly. Hey, sweet thing. Instead of racing out of bed like I normally do, you know, in the past when my son would, when he was little, Mom, whatever, I'd like race right out of the day. But now he's older and he lives with his dad. So I have the blessing of this really incredible morning practice where hand on my heart, hand on my belly. Hey, sweet thing. What is it that I haven't slowed down enough to hear you say? And I practice listening to my intuition. I practice listening to my heart. And then I do my morning practice. Maybe I go out for a walk in nature. I listen to these affirmations when I'm putting my makeup on or doing whatever. I just feed myself. I nourish myself with positive thinking. I vision what it is I choose to create as if it's already happened. No more of this wanting, seeking energy. I'm like, no, I feel the feeling of relaxation that it's already done, the nourishment and fulfillment that it's already done. I record this. I listen to it every single morning. This is my morning practice, like a 2-hour thing. My body, my mind, my spirit. I nourish myself and I listen. I go, truth, is it really in alignment to date that guy? Or is it just that you're lonely and you just don't want to be single? Do you really need to do that program? Like, I'm just launching a program for couples on Monday. And like, do we just need to be busy and just for the sake of being busy? Or do you really feel this is an answer to what couples need right now with COVID and relationships? So I get quiet before I take actions. And there's a sense of okayness if I make mistakes. I mean, I'm not happy if I make a mistake. I'm not happy if I'm rejected, but I'm okay. And this builds over time. And it allows you, when you go to meet new friends or you go to date, you don't need them to like you. You don't have to shine them on. You don't have to do the whole shebang, the whole number. You just are present. You're centered. You're in your body. Your heart is open. You're authentically curious to see who they are. You ask questions and you're actually listening. You're not 3 steps ahead. What do I need to say to impress them? You're actually here. And it's delicious and it's intimate and it's intense. I will not lie. It's intense to be out of control. It's intense to be in the unknown. It is. And yet you simultaneously have complete discernment, complete awareness, complete choice. You're in charge of your ship. You're the holding onto the chariot reins of your chariot. You're in charge. Do you know what's going to happen in a minute? No. Can you control anybody? No. And you can still respond and you're in charge. And it feels like confidence. And it's attractive because you can't be manipulated. They can't say, oh, you're so great. Will you write my book for free? And you go, sure, anything to be your friend. Like you stop doing stupid shit. And people can't use you. And so they respect you. And you don't need a lot of friends. You just need a few good ones, you know? Yeah.
I've definitely noticed a shift in my thinking. And let me tell you, it was very recent. You know, I've been a people pleaser for a very, very long time. And I think that was ingrained in me, just trying to like please my parents and say like, hey, I want you to love me. And that kind of integrated into my relationships in the future where everything was like, somebody would say like, oh, you know, I really do like you as a person. But then I'll be like, can you prove it? Like, but now it has changed and that thinking has shifted into kind of saying like, it's fine if that person doesn't like me. We move on. But when I noticed the shift happening, especially during this time, the people that I wanted or I thought I wanted attention from, I didn't actually really want their attention. It was just like the spur of the moment where I was like, I want you to like me. You know, I want this. But then when they didn't pay attention to me, it didn't bother me anymore. And
wow, good.
I started attracting new people. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? From that whole shift of not begging, not pleading, I started attracting. And I think it comes out like in your demeanor, like it just comes out as a vibrational energy to the people around you, where people I've looked up to, they were doing big things in life and they would have never talked to me before. All of a sudden they would message me and say, hey, I see what you're doing. And I admire you. And I'm like, wait a minute, are you talking about me? Like, are you sure? Right. And I think that has so much to do with like self-love first, and then attracting a partner or attracting a friendship or any type of relationship. Another thing I wanted to like really touch upon, because I know it was a big struggle for me, is like when we are already in a happy relationship, right? Like I've been with my husband for almost 11 years now. It has not been perfect because I was always seeking approval from outside. But now that I've kind of shifted and I've accepted, like, holy crap, thank you for loving me for 11 whole freaking years, me as a mess for a good portion of them. But I've also like, I noticed like we don't really connect on, let's say certain activities. Like he'll like watching adventure movies and all these action, and I'm a rom-com like cartoon type of gal. Like put Disney Plus on. I want to watch Disney Plus, right? So, are there any tips for couples who have been in relationships for a long time? They're happy. There's nothing wrong with their relationship, but is there anything more they can do to stimulate that like intimacy or build that relationship to the next level?
Oh, absolutely, there is. I think it's healthy that you're different. You know, you're supposed to be a catalyst for each other's growth, a catalyst for each other's allowance or compassion, you know? So to not try to change him into a Disney Plus man or to change you into an action hero woman or whatever, to just say there are times to build the polarity, the masculine feminine energy. If you're together all the time and you agree on everything, you become roommates really fast. You know, you stop being lovers. So it's really good to have differences. It's really good to have time apart. It's really good for you to be with your rom-com sisters and him to be with his action movie guys, like to have your own women's group or men's group. Those are all important things. And to have those activities outside of the time you spend in marriage, nourish yourself. So you come back to the marriage more full with who you are. I think there's a healthy distance that maybe a lot of couples don't allow themselves to have, and they just sort of settle and they don't talk much, but they're still in the same room. I'm like, get out there and do something that turns you on and lights you up, and out with you as well. Try something new, because there was a curiosity that you had in the beginning. You know, you wanted to learn. What are you up to? Tell me more. I'm really curious. Well, if you're doing the same thing every day and you're not growing, there's nothing to be curious about, right? So stay engaged in life, stay learning, stay growing. That's one thing. The other thing is, when you do connect, you pretty much know them for 11 years. You know what their favorite breakfast is. You know that they normally do this or what. But I'd like you to stay curious about what you don't know about them. So there's this practice. It's in my book, Finding the One is BS, Finding the One is Bullshit. It's in that book. It's also in my Heartmates for Couples program. And it's the concept, it's called a dyad. These are very, very profound ways to deeply and meaningfully connect and build intimacy. And it sounds simple enough, but it's pretty profound. So the idea with a dyad, it's a two-way communication. And at the end of somebody sharing, your way of listening to them, once they've finished sharing, you say, thank you. And thank you doesn't mean I agree necessarily. It just means I heard you. And most couples that are either good, conflict, or fine, they already know what their partner is going to say. They're not even really listening anymore. Okay. You know, yeah. But that doesn't feel good to not be heard. It does not feel good to not be listened to. It doesn't feel good that somebody doesn't seek to understand you. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't make you feel important at all. And so this makes you feel important again, heard again, the center of someone's attention again, just for 30 or 40 minutes once a week. That's my recommendation. And so there's 3 questions in this 30 or 40-minute practice. The first question is, tell me something you like about me. Often couples that have been together for a long time kind of forget to say that. You know, I just love your little dimple. When you smile, I just really like that. And then the person says, thank you. Tell me something you like about me. And then you go back and forth, 5 minutes. It fuels goodwill. It opens the heart. It reminds you, oh, they still think I'm sexy. That's kind of good, right? Okay. And if you're really in a horrible conflict place, let's say, and you only are focusing on the bad and you're blaming them for everything, you're forced to go, what I really like is that you take out the trash. Thank you. Like, it starts moving back in the direction of kindness, away from, criticism. Okay. So the second question is, tell me something you think we align on. So clearly you don't align on movies. That's fine. But I'm sure there are things that you align on. And when you focus on that, it grows and you feel like you really are on the same team again. And it makes you be more an allowance of where you're different. And you can see that as a gift, because you can see the balance of where you are in alignment together. So that's for couples that are getting along. Now, if you're not getting along and you're really on 2 different sides of the team, we're just going to keep fighting. So you've got to start going, oh, fine, I guess we're in alignment with making this marriage work. Thank you, right? So you'll talk about alignment for a little bit. The third question can change every time you do a dyad. And I have lists of these questions. And in my Heartmates for Couples, literally once you get these questions on a daily basis that come to you, like just this little question to open up possibility in your relationship. But it's the basic one is this: tell me something you want me to understand that you think I may not understand. Because most people think that fights are about, I want to be right and they're wrong. It's got to be my way and I'm in charge. Actually, most fights occur because you just don't hear me. You just don't get me. It's really more about understanding. There's no way we're going to agree on everything. That's just statistically impossible. Okay. But we can understand each other 100%, even if we don't agree. And so when you ask this question, tell me something you want me to understand that you think I may not understand, and they say something, and your normal reaction in the marriage is to go, yeah, well, you just have to go, thank you. You just burn in your shit. You just burn. And you practice going, oh my God, I'm the one that created that fight, being so justifying and giving my reasons and being right and not even listening. I already had my comeback ready. Well, there's no comeback allowed in this. And so the other person feels they can just speak. It feels safe to speak now. I don't have to walk on eggshells. You know, I'm not going to be blown up at. They're not allowed to leave. They got to sit in the fire with me for 35 minutes or 40 minutes. And I'm just going to say, and then of course the rules with it is do your best not to say you, make I statements. It's just a lot easier to hear when someone says, I feel scared. But when we say, when you do that, we generally are angry. But when we get underneath it and we say, I feel angry, I really feel scared. And the person says, thank you. That's a whole other level of connection and authenticity and vulnerability and connection and intimacy that is built over time. So that last question can reveal a lot, can actually heal a lot, even if you never talk about it again. And I actually encourage people not to use what happens in the dyad as ammunition against them the next day. No, it's like a sacred conversation where each person was very brave and vulnerable, and it's meant to be a sacred conversation. But you can do that last third question that changes. You could say, tell me something you want me to understand about you and sex, you and money, you and our parents, you and having kids, you and whatever. You can use it to really dive deep into conversations that normally cause conflict or that you normally avoid. And you can create breakthroughs and miracles.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that advice. One thing I really like doing when I meet new people is I start asking them like really intimate questions, like things that people don't usually think of. It's like, so tell me about you. Like, what do you like to do? What is your inner like fire? Like, what lights your soul on fire? And I think those are the questions that people need to start asking more. Like, yes. I feel like sometimes when we meet new people and we strike a conversation, it's like, oh, how are you? Yeah, life is good. Oh, okay. And it kind of stops there. It's very bland, but I always encourage other people to kind of like reach into their heart, like reach into the brain, like find that childlike curiosity where there's no filter. Because I think when that happens, when that communication happens, people are like, whoa, no one's ever asked me that before.
Right.
And you can kind of laugh about it. Like it's magical. And the connections you make from just one conversation or one really deep explorative question.
Yeah.
It's like that lasts forever. I've made friendships with one conversation and I'm like, I feel like I've known you for decades, but I've only known you for an hour.
Correct. Yeah. And I honor that. I'm in complete alignment with that. All my dating app and my couples, like it's all about the quality of questions, right? The words create our worlds. So the deeper the question, the deeper our life and the richer our life can be. I love that. And I also want to acknowledge you that the presupposition to all that, the ability to be present and literally be curious and not interrupt and not be 3 steps ahead. We have to go all the way back to what we started to talk about in the beginning, is this intimate relationship with yourself. Because if the conversation goes great or not, you still have your own back. If it goes as deep and rich as you want, or you hear what you want or not, you've still got your own back. So you really can be that impeccable listener for the other. It's such a gift to have somebody present who cares and isn't going to fix you, that's really listening. It's, I think, one of the biggest gifts we can give another. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I want to practice this in front of the camera for the audience to see so they can use this as a takeaway. So would you practice with me? Like, what are the first steps that you would encourage like a client to do? And I'll do it on camera for the
Yeah,
audience.
sure. Well, we'll just do we'll do a quickie. We'll do a
Okay.
mini. So yeah, I would say, so tell me something you like about me.
I love your smile.
Thank you. So I say thank you because I heard you and I understand. I may agree, I may not agree. That part doesn't matter. So then you
Okay.
would ask me.
What do you like about me?
Cool. And so I've been trained that the way we ask a question is very much like we're supposed to say tell me, as opposed to the what or whatever. Basically, when we're given an instruction, it sort of takes the I'm trying to be nice. I want you to like me. I want the outcome to go a certain way, when it's just really a direct communication, like tell me. And then you take it in and they receive it. So anyways, you did great. But the word tell me is the way I'm been instructed to teach people. So something I like about you is your bravery to do the work and then show up and teach others and inspire others.
Thank you.
And so we would go back for 5 minutes, back and forth for 5 minutes about what we like about each other. And then we'd move to the next question. So the question is, tell me something you think we align on.
I think we align on the goodness in other people's hearts, to bring that out so they can shine and live a powerful life.
Thank you. And so when I say thank you, I'm making it land like I really heard you and I get you. I want you to know that you've been heard. So I'm not just like, yeah, thanks. You don't do it like, thank you, like really mean it in this interaction. So you did great. Yeah, perfect. Okay, your turn. Tell me something you think we align on.
Tell me something you think we align on.
And notice for a second, I just closed my eyes there. It's in this, when you get good at this, you really let it, you bring it into your heart. You don't just like rebound with the first thing your brain wants to say. Over time, really let it sink into your heart and let something arise, and then communicate it to the other. That's another practice of intimacy. So, so when you asked me, what do I believe, or what do I think we align on? Being a vulnerable inspiration to others.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so then we do that for 5 more minutes. And then the last question we can do is, tell me something you want me to understand that you think I may not fully understand.
I want you to understand that the summit means so much to me because it came from my own personal experience. And the reason why I want to put it out there is because I genuinely want other people to take something away from this and live a more fulfilled life so they can find a path.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. And so then you'd ask me, tell me something you want me to understand that you think I may not understand.
Tell me something that you'd like me to understand that I may not think,
That's okay. That you think I may not understand.
that you think I may not understand.
Yeah, very good. And when you do this, you obviously have it written down. You don't have to memorize it like you are right off the spot. So it's easier, but you're doing so beautifully well. So as I contemplate that, as I bring that into my heart, something I want you to understand that you may not fully understand is how humbling and still a little uncomfortable, but in a good way, to know that like you're a fan, like I have a fan, and that you listen to my podcast. Like I know people listen to my podcast, like I know that cognitively, but like that you enjoyed it. It's still humbling to know that putting one foot in front of the other every day, falling down a lot, feeling insecure a lot, failing a lot, being uncertain a lot, but getting up every day is still humbling to me that I change lives, that there's a positive result I'm creating. It's still sometimes a lot to really receive it all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm. So what was that was like really a mini, because normally it's like 30 or 40 minutes, right? So it was like 2 or 3 minutes. What was it like for you to have that experience?
I felt like it was like it calmed my soul. Like I felt so good because we were having a communication that wasn't judgmental,
Yeah.
and that we understood each other in a different way, and we opened up a space to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I felt like my emotions come out, like it really came out.
Yes.
So that was fantastic. It was beautiful. And I think like I can do this with other people, and that would create such a beautiful connection, of a place of understanding, instead of like, oh, I don't really like when you do this, you kind of conversation.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's an amazing tool to deal with every elephant in the living room. And it never get into fights because you just express truth and you go right to the core underneath all of the blame and conflict that normally happens. And you're right, it's safe because the other person, the rules are we don't judge, we don't react, we don't roll our eyes, we don't interrupt, we say thank you. And if for any reason we don't understand, we just simply say, clarify that. Or if somebody
Oh,
goes on for like 10 friggin' minutes, you say, summarize that, summarize that. Because the goal is to completely understand them. And something inside of us, literally, and you felt it, rests when we feel completely seen and understood. And then something arises that we don't normally get to the core of it, the emotion of it, because we're still spinning up here, trying to be heard, trying to be heard. But when we know it, then something really deep can emerge. And when you do these, like I've literally done these for like 5 days straight.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, several times. It's called an illumination intensive. I do crazy shit. But like when you do this for days and days and days and days and days, you can have a direct experience with your true nature because there's no more content left in the brain. There's no more emotions that need to come up and be felt and released. And you are pure presence with the all witnessed by another. And it can be just beautifully transformative. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. And I can see myself doing that with myself too. It's just
Yes.
tell yourself something you love about yourself. And if you continue to say that over and over and over, it happens.
Yeah. Oh my God, you are such an inspiration. I used to do a lot of mirror work in certain phases of my evolution where I would sit. I do a lot of journaling about, so tell me something you want to tell me that I haven't like that practice, right? In the morning, what have I not slowed down enough to hear? Like that's a form of this practice. But to have a sacred ceremony every Friday night where I would sit down by candlelight looking in the mirror and ask myself, tell me something you want to let me know, or tell me something that you love about me, and look into my own eyes and cultivate that richness within. I'm going to be inspired by you, Nikki, and take my Friday evening or Saturday evening, practice to the next level. Because I know, and I know scientifically this is true, the more we value ourselves, the more we attract people that value us. The more we love ourselves and have the capacity to love all aspects of ourselves unconditionally, the more we are vibrationally aligned with attracting a partner who will do the same and not judge us either, and who doesn't judge themselves either. So the inside always creates the outside 100% of the time, every time. So thank you for this beautiful conversation that's up in my game.
I'm so happy I can contribute something, and I'm so happy to have you here. And I know you have a special offer for the audience. I want to allow you to share that with them because I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. I believe everybody listening is intelligent. And if you could see what the issue is, you would, handle it and move on, right? But there's these things called blind spots. I can't see mine. I'm an amazing coach, but I have 3 coaches because I can't see my blind spots to save my life. And so it's sometimes hard to ask for help and go, there's this pattern I can't seem to shift. So I have a quiz on my site. It's called the Intimacy Blind Spot Assessment Quiz. And as you take it, you will be shown how much of an intimate relationship you have with yourself, with the divine, with life, with your body, with your beloved, whatever way you want to look at taking this intimacy quiz. And you'll think it's one thing that's causing the problems. But clearly, if it was, you would have fixed it and everything would be fine. But it's not. So it's a blind spot. So you will get a glimpse into, oh, that's what's running the show. Oh, and it could be a little humbling at first. Sometimes the truth pisses you off before it sets you free. But at least you take your power back, and at least you're not a victim anymore. So that's good. And then you'll have a path to heal that, integrate that, make new choices, and create the life that you really choose. So I really encourage you to take that intimacy blind spot assessment and see this next level, because I don't think we ever get there. It's like a DNA spiral that just keeps going up. Like, what is the next piece that once integrated will take you to the next level of relationship with yourself and other?
That's so generous of you, Allana. Thank you so much for offering that to the audience. I encourage you guys to go and take it, because as you can see, like, this is so amazing, the connection that you can have, and just figuring out yourself first. You can empower your life, like you can change your life through that. Thank you so much, Allana, for being on my show and for providing such insight. It means the world to me to have you here. Your smile, you light up the world, you spread so much joy. So I just want to leave it at that. I want to say, like, spread gratitude to you, spread gratitude for the audience that's here watching with me. Like, thank you guys for sticking with me, and I hope to see you guys on the next episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nikki. All my love to you. Mwah.